Hi friends, Mindy here. I have a process video for you today working through Facing Fear from Bythewell4God. I am going to be working through day 8 today. I will be working in my journal and my little pocket Bible. But first I'm going to focus on the journal. And I'm just going to flip to the page here that really is slated for day 8. But I kind of liked this page here, and I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. So what I decided to do, because I really liked the way that music paper looked behind this green pattern paper, I'm just going to tear the edges of this down, just making it a little bit smaller so that you can see more of the music paper behind it. And then I will actually glue this down so that that music paper ends up looking like a border around this pattern paper. And so I'm just kind of trimming the excess here, and I have enough pages in this journal. I created this with some extra pages in it so that I could kind of have some leeway with how I wanted to use these pages. So I'm going to go ahead and use some archival ink to just distress around all of the edges, and I'm using my tape gun here just to glue everything down. It's an ATG just a really strong adhesive. You could use a liquid glue or whatever, but and then I have the flashcard that has the scripture on it that's for this day, which is talking about when Jesus was in the boat and with the disciples, and he told and there was the storm and everything. I'll get to that in a second, but I'm going to use this flashcard over here on the left side. But before I get to that, I'm going to work on the right side of this page, and what I have done is pulled out another one of the pattern papers. These are the papers that you can get that coordinate with the kit, and I just tore it down. Again, everything in this particular journal, all of the edges are really are torn and just kind of rough. That was just the look that I was going for with this particular journal. So I'm just going to edge that again with some archival ink going around both the background page and the pocket that I'm going to create. I'm using some Barely Arts precision glue here and just creating a little pocket for my notes and things to go in a few minutes. And so I'm just going to glue all of that down, and I'm holding this here just for a second to make sure everything is tight. And then I want to do something to kind of bridge the gap between, because I have, the way that this journal is, there's 2 signatures in it. And so there's kind of a space where you can see the spine. And so just to kind of make this seem like one cohesive page that I'm working with, I am going to use this is like some canvas ribbon. And so I'm just trimming it down to roughly the size that I'm going to need. And I'm using some score tape. This is actually the scrapbook.com brand, but it's just a really strong double-sided adhesive, and I'm putting that down right down in the gutter of these 2 signatures, and I'm just going to burnish that down really well and make sure it's nice and stuck down, and then I'll peel the release papers off. I ended up getting a little pokey tool to help me do that. I'm just not very nimble fingered sometimes. And then I'm just going to kind of drop this down, this little canvas ribbon here, down in this section. And it's not going to affect how the book, functions, and the signatures will still, the pages will still turn and everything. It's just basically glued down. Now I'm burnishing it with my bone folder there. And then I am also just kind of fraying the edges just a little bit. And there was this one little section that needed another bit of glue. And this is pretty thick ribbon, so I was able to use that Barely Arts precision glue, and it didn't seep through the fabric or anything because it's canvas. So it really actually worked really well. And then I had to trim this one down a little bit, and then again I'm just pulling the threads just to kind of fray the edges just ever so slightly. And then I'm taking a bead of this glue and just running it up on the side of it where the fabric kind of overlaps up over onto the signatures, and that's just going to keep everything down and keep it from getting folded or bent weird or whatever. It'll just stay nice and straight that way. So now I'm going to add this flashcard here, and I decided I was going to staple this, but before I do that, I'm going to distress the edges. I didn't want to tear it because I wanted to keep it kind of this as close to the same size as I could. So I'm using this distressing tool. You could use the edges of your scissors or whatever. And then I just went around that with that tool, and then I went around it with the archival ink. And then now I'm just going to use my tiny attacher, and I'm just going to staple it right here on the edge. I'm trying to be careful because on the back side of this is a pocket, and so I don't want to close up the pocket and so then I couldn't get to my notes from the day before. So anyway, I just needed to add a little bit more glue there, and I have one of these really big, well, they're not really big, but in comparison to my my page here, you saw I had the notes written out on a library card, and then some other notes on just a little craft tag that I had, and I just tucked those in the pockets. And now I'm kind of going through these ephemera pieces and trying to decide which one of these I want to use as a focal image for this right side of this page. And I decided on this vase with the flowers in it. I'm just going to trim down some of the white off of there, and then I will edge all of that as well. And then I'm just going to create a little kind of cluster here on the front. I'm going to add some of the music paper to kind of draw that over to the right side and just make everything seem really cohesive. But I just wanted to get to the content of the devotional for today, which was talking about this story when Jesus was in the boat with the disciples, and he was asleep in the boat, and a storm came up, and the disciples were afraid, and they went to Jesus and they said, "Don't you care that we're about to die?" basically. And because he was asleep in the ship. And there's a lot of lessons to be learned from this particular lesson. This is in Mark 4, by the way. But one of the things that has always struck me about this situation with the disciples is that they had to have some kind of knowledge that that Jesus was capable of doing something. They went to him for a reason, whether it was just for him to witness them, or you would think that they were going to him for help. But then it says that Jesus rebuked the wind, calmed the sea, and then the disciples said to each other, "What manner of man is this, that even the winds obey him?" They still didn't really understand the potential that they had in just calling on Jesus in the middle of a storm. And I heard a pastor a few months ago say, sometimes when we're in a storm, we have a unique perspective. We're in a situation where we can actually witness a miracle. And so here, just really quick, I'm moving on into doing a little page in my little pocket Bible here. So I'm not doing anything that's particularly special with this. I'm just going to add some ephemera and a little cluster. So I'm just going to keep talking about this while you can watch what I'm doing there. I hope that's okay. But anyway, this pastor said, that we have an opportunity. We have we would miss the experience. We get to witness a miracle when we're in the ship and there's this storm, right? Those men witnessed a miracle. They witnessed Jesus calming a storm. And the people that were safely on shore, they were safe. They weren't having any issues, but it was the people that were in the boat that got to see the miracle. And so sometimes, we face battles, and we're not guaranteed a storm-free life. That's just not the way that it is. But we have a promise that we have an anchor, and we have a refuge, and we have a strong tower that we can turn to in those times. And if we call on Jesus and we pay attention to that aspect, we can see the miracle when he calms that storm, when he fixes that situation, when he causes healing, when he fixes problems in your life, when he restores people, when just all of those things. If we weren't kind of in the middle of that storm, we wouldn't have that testimony. We wouldn't be witness to that miracle. And it's just kind of a different perspective, I guess, to kind of keep in mind when you're, in the middle of storms. There was a few years ago, this is back in 2011, my word for 2011 was refuge. And I didn't really know when the Lord gave me that word. He kind of gives them to me ahead of time, before the year starts. And when the Lord gave me that word, I didn't really understand what was what I was facing. You know, everything seemed like everything was going fine in our lives and everything. And then my mom received a cancer diagnosis. And so I went out to stay with her for a few weeks while she had her surgery, her initial surgery and everything. And then I stayed with her. I got home. I was out there about 6 weeks. I got home. And a month later, I got a phone call and my dad had passed away. And it was right after my mom's like second chemo. So it was just, you know, this whole year was just full of her chemo treatments and radiation. And then at the end of the year, she had to have another surgery. And, you know, all of that time, I'm not saying that to, you know, give some kind of sob story or anything. We all have battles in our life, but God proved that word to me so much in that year that he is our refuge, and we're going to face storms. We just are. But we can really, really call on him and lean on him, and we have that promise. And even when we don't understand, you know, sometimes I think we just in our own minds maybe even limit what he can do because we just don't really understand. And so we just need to call on him in faith and let him work the miracle, and we can just be witness to it. And then we can testify to others that when they face those same situations, when they face difficulties, when they're facing storms, he can still speak peace. That's the what I wrote on this card here, is that he speaks peace. This is again back to that scripture in Mark. So I just wanted to leave you with that. I'm almost done with this. I'm just using a Neo color here to highlight this verse in Mark, and then I'm going to use a water brush just to liquefy all of that, and then that will pretty much be it. But I just wanted to leave you with that, you know, remember that even though you have to face a battle, the Lord is there, and trying to, you know, change maybe a perspective of it, that it's actually you being witness to a miracle, that when he changes the situation, because he has the power to do it at any time. All he has to do is say the word and the situation will be different. So anyway, I just wanted to leave that with you. If you liked this video, I would appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And until next time, bye-bye.